Antibiotic resistance is something I'm very fascinated about. I've done lots of personal research on it, and I've even joined an undergraduate research lab focused on it. Antibiotics are one of the biggest accomplishments of humankind. This presentation hopes to explain the current battle between humans and bacteria. So I'd like to start this off by explaining the history of antibiotics. And so this history starts with the discovery of penicillin. Penicillin was discovered by a man named Alexander Fleming in 1928. It was actually discovered by accident. Mold grew in one of his petri dishes, and it started killing the bacteria surrounding it. Here are the dead bacteria here, and here are the living ones. And so, as described by a website of an ACS website, before penicillin, there was no effective treatment for infections such as pneumonia, gonorrhea, or rheumatic fever. So this became somewhat of a miracle drug. And so this miracle drug was started to be overused and misused, with doctors overprescribing it and people not using it properly, like using it too short, causing the bacteria to develop antibiotic resistance. And so this graph describes E. coli, Klebsiella, and Enterobacter, how its antibiotic resistance has gone up over time, but the number of antibiotics to help counteract this antibiotic resistance have been going down. So I'd like to explain how these antibiotics work. Penicillin is an antibiotic in a group called beta-lactam antibiotics. And these antibiotics bind to the penicillin binding protein. And this penicillin binding protein creates peptidoglycan cross-linkages which reinforce the cell wall. When penicillin binding protein is binded to by penicillin, it deactivates it, causing these peptidoglycan cross-linkages to not form. A good quote to help explain this is from the National Center of Biotechnology Information, or NCBI. And this states, as the cell wall continues to weaken, osmotic pressure pushes water into the cell, killing it. You can think of this as the columns of a building deteriorating and the building collapsing in on itself. Another form of bacteria, antibiotic, are fluoroquinolones, or quinolones. These quinolones attach to topoisomerases and make them too stable, and they don't break off from the DNA, creating the DNA replication, causing the DNA replication to stop too soon, creating breakages, causing cell death. So what are some new methods for fighting antibiotic resistance? You can either have new antibiotics made that are just different target different areas of the bacteria, or you can be more unique about it. So some of these scientists have developed a method called predatory bacteria. And these predatory bacteria attach to the cell and digest its innards. This can be explained by Microbiology Society. It says that it recognizes and attacks prey cells and enters the cell by making a hole, then reseals the hole with it inside of it and stabilizes it so it can safely consume the inside of the cell. And that can be used as an antibiotic. Another method is phage therapy. And phage therapy uses bacteriophages to help kill this bacteria, just how a normal virus would. So it inserts its DNA, hijacks the bacterial's innards to make more viruses, which then burst the cell, killing it. These bacteriophages are highly specific, so they can only be used on certain bacteria. So this becomes somewhat of an issue in using it on most people. So you have to know what the bacteria is, and then you have to use screening, which is where you use different types of bacteriophages on the bacteria to see which kinds kill it. But when it does work, it works really well. An example of this is from NCBI. It says that D. Harrels, who was the guy who discovered bacteriophages, made a dysentery medication. And when it was administered to a 12-year-old boy with severe dysentery, his symptoms ceased after a single dose. and he fully recovered after 3 days. So, in conclusion, antibiotic resistance is a growing issue in the medical field. However, if people are to use the antibiotics responsibly and the doctors prescribe it responsibly, and new antibiotics continue to be developed, we can win this fight against bacteria and their antibiotic resistance. Thank you for watching.